Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. And I'm going to show you that there is absolute collusion between the Unselect Committee, the Marxist Mockingbird, Media Muppets, the Department of Justice, and it's crooked beyond all belief. NBC News reported and did an article about an individual who most people don't know. It was an article by Ryan J. Riley over at NBC. And it was about former Trump Department of Justice official Jeffrey Clark. In this article, they say the following. Most Americans don't know Jeffrey Clark, the environmental lawyer, whom former President Donald Trump wanted to take over the Justice Department to aid in his efforts have what President Trump was working on at the end of 2020. But the House January 6th committee hopes its Thursday hearing might change that. Okay, that's just the beginning of it. That's the beginning the article. Well, what happened right after that article was published early Wednesday? The FBI raided his home. The agents would not let them get dressed. He was printed outside in his pajamas. So who is Clark? Was the former acting head of the Civil Division in 2020, and was considered by Trump to replace William Barr as Attorney General. He was being investigated by the Unselect Committee. And now the Justice Department and the FBI arrested him for his role in assisting President Trump per se, being sympathetic to President Trump. And what he was saying at the end of 2020, you guys all know what I'm talking about, but I can't even say it. On this platform. ABC's Ben Siegel reported, ABC federal agents raided the home of ex-Trump DOJ official Jeffrey Clark. Wednesday morning, Clark worked with Trump on a plan to replace acting Attorney General and pressure Georgia legislators. Isn't that interesting? They put an article out for everyone to know who the guy is. Then he gets arrested. And guess what? He was a topic of today's Thursday hearing. If that isn't coordination and collusion, folks, if that is an absolute tyranny, if that isn't a mafia, in the federal government, what the hell is what does corruption look like? If it doesn't look like an Unselect Committee that is unconstitutional and not done by the proper bipartisan rules of the House of Representatives? It's a Nancy Pelosi witch hunting on Select Committee naming somebody telling ABC News, we're gonna get this guy. They wrote an article about him right before he's arrested. He's paraded out, he's totally has his rights violated in the arrest all these other bastards that get on the Democrats? So I'm getting sick and tired of this one. Party unit party system. This justice system that's an injustice system that only works one way to protect the trees are traitors, rat bastards and go after anyone who stands up against them. Let me give you details of how this arrest went down. The new era of criminalizing politics is worsening in the U.S. This is from former Trump director Reservoir, who gave the details of the pre-dawn raid. It happened before the kind of in his pajamas. The new era of criminalizing politics is worsening in the U.S. Yesterday more than a dozen DOJ law enforcement officials searched Jeff Clark's home in a pre-dawn raid, put him in the street in his PJs and took his electronic devices. All because John Jeff saw fit to investigate a certain kind of fraud. That fraud starts with VOTER. This is not America, folks. The weaponizing of government must, and let me be very clear, we stand by Jeff and so almost all patriots in this country. He's currently president and fellow of Center for Renewing America. Again, Timeline NBC reports on it. Late Tuesday, early Wednesday, and a pre-dawn raid. Clark is a ghost, exists harangue and harassed. And then we see that he is the subject of today's J6 hearing. Nothing to see here, folks, everything's on the up and up. Here's some good news. The UN Select Committee is delaying its hearings indefinitely. They haven't given a date. Representative Benny Thompson, the chairman of the committee, told reporters Wednesday that the committee would hold off on the two final hearings that they have planned for this month. Representative Zio Longeron said, I don't think we've established a date yet, but we have a mountain of new information that's coming in we have to go through. Now they don't. They're just such a failure. They don't want to they want to keep it in the new cycle. They don't want to run it out the month, they want to push it to July and try to come up with some new things. They need to strategize because people aren't buying it. Guess why people care more about inflation, food shortages and baby formula than they do about this damn Unselect Committee and their false narrative. And let me tell you who is absolutely A failure if you didn't already know Liz Cheney, and she did exactly what she said she wouldn't do. Showing absolute desperation. This is desperation. Liz Cheney has sent direct mailers. If you're not familiar, if you're on this channel, and you're new here, may or may not be familiar, but if you've been here for a while, then you know, and even if you haven't been for a while, you should know that Liz Cheney is the snake in the grass Republican on the Unselect Committee or total anti-Trump hater who is losing in her state. She is the ranking member of this Unselect Committee. Representative Liz Cheney of Republican Wyoming has sent direct mailers to Wyoming Democrats requesting the change parties to be eligible to vote in the August Republican primary. Wow. The mailer has direct instructions on how Democrat or human voters can change your party affiliation to cast a vote for Cheney, who is down 28 points to Trump-endorsed Harriet Hack Hageman, or Hagan. The mailer also displays Kenny's campaign web address for Democrat voters to learn more specifics. I'm looking at it. Here's the first question: is how do I change my party affiliations register as a Republican so I can vote for Liz? And then how can I get an absentee ballot, and when does it need to be returned? We know what side Liz Cheney is on everything. That is so desperate and so pathetic. And guess what the Democrats have said? Jeff Barbuto, the chairman of the Wyoming Democrat Party, was among the constituents who received Chinese direct mail piece. Speaking with the New York Times, he said Kenny's plot of winning re-election by Democrat votes is likely to fail. Even if every Democrat in the state switched over. I don't think it'd be enough to help her. What a frickin' loser. This is what the kids are. It's probably not the kids are doing today. Joe Biden wants to have a gas tax holiday. But he's not going to. House Democrats are not convinced that Joe Biden's gas tax holiday is the correct method to help reduce pain at the pump for consumers. Now, some of their arguments may have merit. Because what happens as quickly people have gotten used to paying has high gas prices, let's say there's a 30% 30 cents tax, and that tax goes away, there will be fuel stops, that will be gas stations that will lower the save the gas 15 to 20%, 15 to 20 cents, excuse me, a gallon. And people be like, oh, okay, they're feeling the relief. But that may be a margin of more profit for the gas station. That's just the reality of it, not villainizing it. Let's just call how business will operate. Right. So this is what House and Ways mean. House and Ways and means committee care, Richard Neal said. We're just looking at the data. Now we want to see where the relief really comes and whether it's going to the consumers or the oil companies. There's no guarantee that any sort of suspension of the gas tax will be passed on to consumers, that's a Democrat speaking, but that's as an actual truth. Okay. House Majority Leader Stein Horter said they're not convinced that Biden's gas tax holiday is the right solution. Though he wants the party to be doing something about the gas prices. I have not been a proponent of the gas tax. Well, you said there's no guarantee that the sellers, either wholesale or retail, will reduce their prices. And then, of course, we've got to backfill the Highway Trust Fund. And I don't know that gives much relief. Well, guess who these people are echoing? Let's go to a little flashback to the year 2008. When this was a topic on the campaign trail, and the finalists during that contest, when Barack Hussein Obama and one no-name, Rhino, who does have a name, John McCain. And this is what Barry said back then. I know that we're having a debate right now about the gas tax holiday. I know how this is unfolding right now. I know they need relief, which is why I offered a middle-class tax cut for every American, $1,000 for working families, that they can deal not only with rising gas prices, but rising healthcare costs and rising grocery costs. But for us to suggest that 30 cents a day for 3 months, as we don't believe that that's a real energy policy, means that we are not tackling the problem that has to be tackled. Obama partially right. They're not that I'm opposed to, don't get me wrong. I'm never opposed to taxes going away or being reduced. We are way overtaxed. If our founding fathers and the original Americans, United States of Americans and colonists, saw what we're putting up with, they were revolted a long time ago. Just go look at the Boston Tea Party and what the tax was on that. That got them all in trouble. But over time, we've become accustomed, like any other prisoner or slave, we've gotten accustomed to our situation. He said first to suggest 30 cents a day for 3 months as real relief. Well, it's 30 cents a gallon. And people burn through more than 1 gallon a day at this time. But anyway, The Democrats appear to be pushing back against Joy with the same mentality of Barack Hussein Obama, who's actually somewhat get the savings will not always be passed on to the consumer. But then again, most of the taxes don't go to what they're really meant to go to anyway. Alright, here's another follow-up to what we talked about this morning. And the Rhino has felt the heat, and now he's shuffling back his words. After facing swift and intense backlash from conservatives and Republican lawmakers, and of course his constituents and Republican voters, Senator John Cornyn claimed that he was just joking about striking a deal on amnesty after negotiating a deal on gun control. I was just joking, John Cornyn is saying. Can you guys take a joke? I mean, it's really joking to go from gun control to amnesty. Either one, he's lying. And it wasn't a joke, too. It's a spin. Which actually goes with one right. Or three, he got caught. And let's say it was a joke. That he was joking. Oh, now that we don't go control is going to amnesty. That means that John Cornyn realizes that he is a rhino with voting on and supporting gun control. And he's just saying, hey, I'm already a rhino on this. Let me be a rhino on everything. So either way, it doesn't. Farewell for John Cornyn. Boy, was the blowback swift. And don't forget, Sinema said in response to Cornyn's comment. She said, that's right. We're going to do it. So I guess she was in on the joke as well. So Kevin McCarthy and Jim Banks were two of the House Republicans that pushed back on it, and also Andrew Serbian, who said from selling out on gun control to selling out on amnesty, and Lightspeed perfectly said couldn't have said it better myself. McCarthy said that amnesty was not on the table and it's a non-starter for House Republicans. Quote, amnesty is a non-starter with me and it will be taken up by a House Republican majority. Our border crisis is the worst in history and the only immigration plan should be to secure the border and stop illegal immigration that's fleeing the worst drug prices in history. House Republicans will fight for this with everything we have. GOP Jim Banks tweeted out, GOP leader already pledged no amnesty. Republicans in the House are united and so are our voters. The House Judiciary GOP said no gun bill, no amnesty period. So he may be moving stuff in the Senate. But the House appears to be united against the amnesty bill. Alright, President Trump had something to say and he is on the money. And he's calling it out for what it really is. This is President Trump. This is when he tripped out on the gun control deal. Quote, the deal on gun control currently being structured and pushed in the Senate by the radical left Democrats. With the help of Mitch McConnell, Rhino Senator John Cornyn of Texas and others will go down in history as the first step in the movement to take your guns away. He puts all caps, take your guns away. Kind of like a title coming from a Black Sort of Patriot video. Republicans, be careful what you wish for. Alright, let us name the Republican senators who voted to advance the 80-page gun control bill. Roy Blunt, Richard Burr, Shelley Moore Capito, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, John Cornyn, Joni Ernst, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, Rob Portman, Mitt Romney, Tom Tillis, and Todd Young. And they are expected to have a final vote on this the day after tomorrow by the end of the week, probably on Friday. Alright. What are your thoughts about the stories that we've covered so far? Please put it down below. Okay, let's talk about rhinos and fakes. Let's talk about users and abusers, because we have someone who used President Trump and now is dumping him. Let's look at this. Dr. Oz drops Trump branding from his website, signaling a departure from America First. Now, let's analyze this without being emotional. Dr. Oz, a television celebrity and Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, had dropped former President Trump from his campaign content as the hotly contested Senate election enters a final stretch of the midterm cycle. Okay. So what I'm saying here as we're going through this, is this as using Trump and then dumping him, or trying to have more appeal going into the general midterms so he had Trump's endorsement and he won the Republican? Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now.